Hello everyone and thank you for joining me. Today I will be talking about a fountain pen that I had for more than 10 years in my collection so far. I guess we can call these kind of reviews long time reviews. Anyway, the fountain pen in question is the Faber-Castell Essentio in carbon fiber trim. More about that in a few moments. The overall shape of the fountain pen is pretty much straight, with the exception of the cap that is pretty much like a bulge. However, it's sort of comfortable and kind of interesting looking, with a very nice clip that works very well. Doing a quick shirt test. Nowadays, this pen actually struggles to go over a shirt because of the rubbery part. However, back in the days, this thing was clipping in very nice and easily. Same from removing it from your shirt. The problem that I have nowadays with the cap is that it has become sticky to the touch and makes it very hard to clean it. And yeah, it's pretty much a lint magnet. On the cap, on the side, we have the logo, Faber-Castell, and since 1761 inscribed on it. Very interesting finish on the cap, chopped off a little bit on the side, and then kind of a dimple at the top in there, but no actual finials to talk about. At the end of the cap, we have a little bit of a groove that it's actually part of the barrel, then a little bit of a step up, and something that looks like carbon fiber, but just looks like carbon fiber. This is not actual carbon fiber from my experience. I have been handling actual carbon fiber before. This looks like a lot like a vinyl piece that was just wrapped around there and then covered in some type of shellac or resin. And then again, we have the top vinyl, which seems to be metal, and it ends with a concave part. Even with the cap posted, the pen feels a little bit top heavy. This part of the pen is actually really heavy. The cap, it's a pull-push type, works very well, and over the years still works pretty good. Never really had any issues with it. And once you remove it, having a look inside the cap, pretty simple and straightforward, just plastic, nothing else. With the exception of the part where the fountain pen clips inside of it. And the pen will clip somewhere around here. Going back to the fountain pen, this section used to be actually really beautiful, really comfortable. I liked its length. As mentioned a couple of times before, I really prefer actual section that you can grab the fountain pen from, and I much prefer long sections. Unfortunately, this, just like the cap over the years, has become a little bit sticky, and this is the main reason I'm not really using this fountain pen as much as I used to. One thing that you'll probably already noticed and ask yourself for is that the nib that I have on it, it's an extra fine nib. The original nib that I had was actually a medium nib. However, over the years, my preference in nib sizes have changed. This nib actually comes from this Faber-Castell, which is a grip Faber-Castell. And I purchased this one because it was the cheapest way to get an extra fine nib and use it on this fountain pen. The sizes are a little bit different, however, I was able to manage to pull them out and make them work without any issue. Removing the nib from them, it's actually a little bit of a pain. It took me a while to actually remove it, but once I removed it, everything worked out just fine. And like I mentioned, above that nib, now there's a very sticky section, the barrel, twist to remove, and in my case it will reveal a converter that does not come included with the fountain pen. As you can see, the converter goes very deep inside the section because the section is so tall. One thing to note, not all type of converters can actually go inside this barrel. It is a little bit narrow inside there, and at the same time there's a spring at the end. Speaking of, let me show you what I have inside of there. A long tube with a metal band inside and some spring at the end of it. And like I mentioned, there's a lot of weight at the end of this barrel, and naturally, unfortunately, this makes the pen top heavy. Speaking of feeling in hand, unposted, the pen for me actually it's pretty good. I never really had any issues with it. The weight of the pen actually it's on my knuckle. As such, I never really fought with it. However, if you have smaller hands and you hold it somewhere in here, I could see how you would fight with the pen. Lengthwise, perfect for my hands. I do like the way it feels unposted. And the only thing that I hate about it nowadays, or dislike better said, it's the sticky section. And if by any chance the pen doesn't have a good length for you, the pen actually posts very well. It posts shallow, but it posts secure, and it makes the fountain pen extremely long. This is pretty much desk fountain pen territory for me, and this is another thing that I really liked about the pen because it gives me a lot of hand positions and uses, especially for drawing, sketching, and whatever else you might need it for. However, again, the bad news for somebody with small hands, this will make it even more top heavy, but I guess you would not need to pose this fountain pen anyway. And this is pretty much the fountain pen, not much else to add. It was a great fountain pen for me and I enjoyed it for a long time. Unfortunately, some of the material that they choose didn't stand out over the time as much as I would have liked them to, and as such I don't really use this fountain pen that much. Anyway, let me ink it up and then we'll go to our writing sample and hopefully we'll get a nice sketch with it. The ink for today that I'm using, I decided to go for the Hiro Shizuku Takesumi. I guess the carbon fiber faux kind of inspired me to get this ink since the color that it has is kind of a carbon black. It's not fully dark black, it has kind of like a carbon look to it. The other thing to mention, because of the sticky rubber grip that I have nowadays on this pen, I decided to not actually put it inside the ink because it would have made the cleaning of the rubber section a pain. So I just decided to fill it up, to fill up the converter with a syringe. I link to a video that I've done on how I usually do that. As I mentioned, I've changed the nib with a nib from the grip Faber-Castell. I remember when I purchased it, I did have to floss and do a little bit of smoothing on the nib. So this is Faber-Castell Essential fountain pen. The nib works actually really good, sounds a little bit scratchy, however doesn't actually dig into paper. Never had any issues with it since I put it on the pen, well, with the exception of the smoothing and the flossing part. Other than that, it works very well. Reverse gives you a nice finer line, but again, it's very dry if you go too fast. However, if you slow down, it keeps up quite nicely. Good for detail work if you need it. No issues. Interesting that this ink on this pen feels actually kind of dry. Something that I'll probably like during the drawing, but we'll see what results we have. One thing that I noticed is downstrokes are actually nice, but side strokes are lighter. And one thing kind of nice about this nib is that you can actually get some line variation out of it. So I would consider this actually close to a semi-flex. You don't have to put a lot of pressure to get that line variation. Anyway, an interesting fountain pen, a nice nib, kind of cool ink. Let's see how it's gonna look on the paper that I have. And let's try and get a sketch out of this fountain pen. Hopefully I will not give up midway, because I do find this section a little bit annoying, especially if I have to do small detail work, because I tend to grip the pen a little bit tighter, and then when I release it, it just sticks to the section, which is annoying. Anyway, not to prolong it anymore, I'll jump into a sketch and I'll let you know my final conclusions on the Essential fountain pen. Today, nothing special for the sketching part. Just some messy mess that I actually enjoy putting it on the page with a lot of passion, let's say. I think the true hero for today was the actual paper. It took the abuse very well, and not even a line showed on the other side of the paper. And there were a few places where I actually put some effort on the page. Well, not as strong as I could have, still very impressed. I guess there is a reason why I like this paper. The pen worked just as well, and to be honest, I was a little bit annoyed about this section. Maybe that is one of the reasons why I end up with such a loose sketch. I started to grab the fountain pen above the section and just let myself loose. I think the drawing ended up at least interesting, let's say. But, as I said, very loose. Not sure yet if I like the Takesumi ink for sketching. I think I will try and use it next time again, and maybe this time I will try and not let myself so loose. Anyway, what do I like about the Faber-Castell Essential fountain pen? I guess over the years that I had the fountain pen, there are some things that I still like on it. I still like the size and shape of the pen, and how it actually balances in my hand. I also used to love the grip section on the pen. It was extremely comfortable back then, but unfortunately over the years it did not hold up as well as I hoped. The other thing that I still like, the clip, is just as good and easy to use as at the beginnings, and the nibs that I got to use on it over the years, still great and work as intended. And in the end, I also like how the pen is posting, allowing you to have a very long fountain pen for pretty much any needs you might have, and extremely loose sketches. Is there anything that I dislike about it? As mentioned, over the years, the rubber parts on the pen started to be way too sticky for my liking. I tried numerous things to get rid of that stickiness, but it just did not work. And I am afraid to try anything extreme because I do not want to, well, completely ruin the fountain pen. The other thing that kind of irked me a little, but I learned to accept it over the years, the carbon fiber really doesn't look like carbon fiber on the pen. Looks a lot like a piece of vinyl to me. Also, don't hope that because of that the pen is lighter. It is not. Another thing that I discovered, and it was a little annoying, is that not all international converters will fit inside the barrel. I actually had a converter getting stuck inside the barrel, and it took me a while to recover the parts from inside the barrel. Also, the spring at the end could complicate things since the knob on the converter can get stuck inside the spring, or worse, turn the piston as you remove the barrel. And lastly, no converter included. In the end, I did enjoy the pen over the years and did not really hate it per se. The only thing that keeps me away from it nowadays is the sticky section. So unless they changed or fixed the rubber parts on this pen, I find it hard to recommend it, especially if you plan to keep it for years and years. And I guess that's another wrap. Feel free to enjoy the rest of the time lapse, and if you have any other questions, leave a comment below and I will try and get to it as soon as I can. Thank you for joining me today, hope I'll see you next time, and I wish you all the best and a wonderful day or night, wherever you are. Take care, bye.